Imagine waking up in a world where the promise of medical miracles is overshadowed by a creeping sense of uncertainty. Life-saving drugs, once expected to swiftly reach those in need, are now stuck in a bureaucratic maze. Treatments for rare and devastating diseases pause indefinitely, not for lack of scientific progress, but because the machinery of approval has begun to falter. Meanwhile, investors, once eager to fuel the next biotech revolution, pull back, wary of a system that appears increasingly unpredictable. This is not the plot of a dystopian novel. Instead, it is a very real possibility brewing within the United States Food and Drug Administration, one of the world's most influential regulatory bodies. If left unaddressed, this crisis could fundamentally reshape the future of medicine, innovation, and even the global economy. To fully appreciate the magnitude of what is at stake, let's take a closer look at why the FDA is, quite literally, the heartbeat of biotechnology in the United States, and by extension, the world. Founded in the early 20th century, the FDA's mission has evolved from simply preventing the sale of dangerous elixirs to orchestrating the complex ballet of modern medicine. Today, every new drug, medical device, or therapy destined for American patients must pass through the FDA's rigorous review process. Each year, thousands of companies, ranging from nimble startups to pharmaceutical giants, wait anxiously for the agency's verdicts. A single FDA approval can propel a young biotech company into the ranks of industry leaders, opening doors to lucrative partnerships, stock surges, and, most importantly, hope for patients. Conversely, a rejection or even a delayed decision can erase years of effort and billions of dollars in investment, casting doubt on the prospects of entire disease areas. In short, the FDA is not just a regulator. It is the crucible in which medical innovation is tested, refined, and ultimately delivered to the public. Over the past decade, the biotech sector has experienced a breathtaking surge of innovation. The headlines have been filled with dramatic breakthroughs, from gene editing technologies like CRISPR to revolutionary immunotherapies that train the body's own defenses to fight cancer. Within the last year alone, the FDA has approved treatments that were once the stuff of science fiction. One of the most noteworthy is the recent approval of KalVista Pharmaceuticals' oral medication, known as Ekterly. This pill is now the first of its kind to treat hereditary angioedema, a rare, painful, and sometimes life-threatening disorder characterized by unpredictable swelling of the skin and mucous membranes. Until now, patients have relied almost exclusively on injectable therapies, which are not only inconvenient but also anxiety-inducing for many. The arrival of an oral alternative represents a seismic shift in patient care, offering newfound freedom and quality of life to those who have suffered in silence for years. But Ekterly is just the tip of the iceberg. Cogent Biosciences, another innovator in the field, recently reported promising results from a late-stage trial of bezuclastinib, a novel targeted therapy for indolent systemic mastocytosis. This is the most common form of an immune disorder that can cause a bewildering array of symptoms, from allergic-like skin rashes and gastrointestinal distress to neurological complications and chronic fatigue. For patients and their families, these breakthroughs are more than scientific milestones. They are beacons of hope. Meanwhile, Apogee Therapeutics is blazing its own trail, announcing positive results for APG-777, a next-generation antibody therapy designed to tackle atopic dermatitis, a notoriously stubborn skin disease. Not content to stop there, Apogee is exploring the potential of this therapy to address asthma and a variety of eosinophilic diseases, signaling a future where complex immune disorders may finally meet their match. And let's not forget the technology revolution sweeping through biotech. Artificial intelligence, once confined to the realm of science fiction, is now a real force in drug discovery and development. Major investors, including the influential Khosla Ventures, are pouring resources into AI-driven roll-ups of mature companies, betting that machine learning can supercharge everything from clinical trial design to regulatory compliance. The vision is compelling: faster, cheaper, and more precise innovation that can outpace disease itself. Yet beneath these dazzling headlines lies a growing sense of unease. The source? The FDA itself. According to an exclusive investigative report, the agency has been rocked by a massive exodus of talent. In April alone, approximately 1 in every 5 FDA staff members departed, with many citing burnout, political pressure, and decreasing faith in leadership as key reasons. The roots of this crisis can be traced to significant staffing cuts implemented under the Trump administration, but the hemorrhaging has continued unabated. The implications of this talent drain are profound. The FDA is a knowledge-based organization. Its ability to evaluate complex scientific data, anticipate safety issues, and maintain public trust depends on the expertise and morale of its staff. As more scientists, doctors, and analysts walk out the door, those who remain are left to shoulder an ever-growing burden. Overworked and under-resourced, they are at greater risk of missing critical details, making rushed decisions, or failing to spot subtle safety signals. As Peter Marks, a highly respected senior FDA official, recently warned, maintaining public trust in our regulatory decisions is more important now than ever. This is not just an internal concern. The cracks are already becoming visible to the outside world. For example, Jasper Therapeutics, a biotech company developing the drug briquilimab, has been forced to launch a full-scale investigation after discovering a potential manufacturing defect. This defect may have compromised the potency of their experimental therapy and, as a result, the validity of a crucial mid-stage clinical trial. In an ordinary environment, companies could count on timely, clear guidance from regulators to navigate such setbacks. But with the FDA stretched thin, uncertainty prevails. An industry analyst summed up the situation bluntly. If we can't rely on clear, timely guidance from regulators, the whole development timeline is at stake. The consequences of a demoralized, understaffed FDA are not limited to delayed drug approvals. They threaten to erode the very foundation of public trust on which modern medicine relies. When patients, physicians, and investors begin to question whether regulatory decisions are being made with adequate scrutiny, or worse, suspect that political agendas or simple exhaustion are influencing outcomes, the entire ecosystem is put at risk. The biotech sector, notorious for its high stakes and long timelines, depends on predictable, transparent oversight to function. When that predictability is lost, investment dries up, and the pace of innovation slows to a crawl. Let's consider some of the ripple effects. Imagine a patient suffering from hereditary angioedema, desperately awaiting the availability of Ectorly. Even a delay of a few months can mean recurrent, debilitating attacks, sometimes severe enough to require emergency medical attentions. For families battling rare diseases, every day counts. A bottleneck at the FDA, caused by staff shortages or low morale, can literally be a matter of life and death. And it's not just patients who suffer. Companies like Jasper Therapeutics face dire financial consequences when regulatory timelines become unpredictable. Clinical trials, already costing tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars, can be derailed, forcing layoffs, loss of investor confidence, or even bankruptcy. When nearly 1 in every 5 FDA employees leaves in the span of a single month, as recently reported, it is not just a staffing issue, it is a full-blown institutional crisis. Moreover, the global nature of today's biotech industry adds another layer of complexity. The FDA's evolving stance toward international companies, particularly those based in China, is already shifting the competitive landscape. In recent years, concerns over data integrity, supply chain transparency, and geopolitical tensions have prompted the FDA to scrutinize foreign applications more intensely. This could mean longer approval timelines or additional hurdles for innovative therapies developed outside the United States. For American patients, this could mean delayed access to cutting-edge treatments pioneered overseas. For global investors, it introduces yet another variable into an already volatile equation. Despite the mounting risks, there may be a silver lining. Historically, times of crisis have forced organizations to adapt, modernize, and ultimately emerge stronger. The current turmoil at the FDA could be the catalyst for long overdue reforms. For example, there is growing momentum behind the adoption of digital tools designed to streamline review processes, automate routine tasks, and flag potential safety issues earlier. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, already transforming drug discovery, could be harnessed to help regulators keep pace with the ever-accelerating flow of data. Some venture firms are already exploring these tech-driven solutions. Khosla Ventures, for example, is betting that AI-infused roll-ups can fill the gaps left by departing FDA staff, improving both efficiency and accuracy. Imagine a near future where regulatory submissions are pre-screened by sophisticated algorithms, alerting human reviewers to the most pressing issues. Such innovations could help the FDA regain its footing, but they are not without risks. Over-reliance on technology could introduce new forms of bias or obscure the nuanced judgment that only seasoned experts can provide. The challenge is to strike the right balance, embracing innovation without sacrificing rigor or transparency. For viewers tuning in, whether you are a patient, an advocate, a healthcare professional, or an investor, the lesson is clear. The fate of tomorrow's medical breakthroughs depends on a delicate equilibrium. Robust oversight, strong morale, and relentless innovation must all work in concert. If any one of these pillars falters, the entire system is at risk. As Michelle McMurray-Heath, president of the Biotechnology Innovation Organization, recently emphasized, continued investment in both people and new ideas is the only way to maintain the momentum of medical progress. So what can you do? If you or a loved one is awaiting new treatments, take an active role in your healthcare journey. Join patient advocacy groups, participate in clinical trials if eligible, and make your voice heard in policy debates. Ask your medical team about emerging therapies, and stay informed about regulatory updates. For those in the biotech industry, the message is equally urgent. Invest in your workforce, foster open channels of communication with regulators, and prioritize transparency at every stage of development. When trust is built from within, it radiates outward, reassuring patients, investors, and the public alike. Policymakers, too, have a crucial role to play. Decisions made in Washington, D.C., from funding allocations to regulatory reforms, directly impact which medicines reach the pharmacy shelves and when. It is essential for lawmakers to recognize that the FDA's current crisis is not merely an administrative hiccup, but a pivotal test of America's commitment to scientific leadership and public health. Targeted investments in recruitment, training, and technological infrastructure can help revitalize the agency, empowering it to meet the challenges of 21st-century medicine. Looking back, history offers valuable lessons. A decade ago, the emergence of biologics and gene therapies forced the FDA to rethink its traditional playbook. After initial struggles and delays, the agency adapted, introducing new pathways for accelerated approval and greater collaboration with external experts. Some of the most transformative therapies of the last generation, think of CAR cell treatments for leukemia or the first wave of direct-acting antivirals for hepatitis C, almost failed to make it past regulatory hurdles. Today, these drugs are saving countless lives and have set new standards for medical progress. The stakes, as always, could not be higher. The current crisis is not insurmountable, but it demands swift, decisive action. Leaders at the FDA must prioritize rebuilding morale, restoring trust, and embracing modern tools without losing sight of the agency's core mission: protecting the public while fostering innovation. The world is watching. As we peer into the future, several scenarios could unfold. If the FDA successfully navigates this period of turmoil, we could witness a renaissance of regulatory efficiency, faster approvals, smarter oversight, and a new era of trust between industry and government. Breakthroughs like EKTERLY for hereditary angioedema, bezuclastinib for systemic mastocytosis, and APG777 for atopic dermatitis could become the norm rather than the exception. On the other hand, if morale continues to erode and talent continues to flee, we risk entering a period of stagnation where innovation slows, investment wanes, and patients suffer the consequences. For investors, this is a time for both caution and optimism. The volatility surrounding FDA approvals makes it more important than ever to conduct rigorous due diligence, diversify portfolios, and stay attuned to policy shifts. Some analysts, like those at Seeking Alpha, have suggested that launches like EKTERLY represent buy-the-dip opportunities, short-term setbacks that could yield long-term gains if the underlying science remains strong. Others warn that regulatory uncertainty could make even the most promising companies vulnerable to sudden downturns. Let's not overlook the global context. As the FDA tightens its scrutiny of international applications, the balance of power in the biotech industry may shift. Countries with robust domestic regulatory agencies, such as those in the European Union or Japan, could gain a competitive edge, attracting investment and talent away from the United States. Alternatively, increased collaboration between regulators worldwide could pave the way for harmonized standards, allowing life-saving therapies to reach patients faster and more efficiently everywhere. For patients, the bottom line is this: the journey from laboratory bench to bedside is more complex and more precarious than most people realize. Every step in the process, from clinical trials to manufacturing to final approval, depends on a network of dedicated individuals working tirelessly behind the scenes. When that network is strained, the consequences are real and immediate. It is up to all of us, patients, professionals, policymakers, and the public, to demand accountability, champion innovation, and support those who dedicate their lives to advancing medicine. So what does this all mean for your life? If you rely on new treatments or have loved ones who do, Do not wait on the sidelines. Be proactive. Engage with advocacy groups, participate in research when possible, and push for clarity and transparency from both industry and regulators. If you work in biotech or healthcare, support your colleagues, invest in training, and help bridge the gap between innovation and oversight. And for everyone, remember that the decisions made in distant boardrooms and government offices have a direct impact on the medicines available at your local pharmacy. In closing, the FDA's current crisis is not just a bureaucratic drama or a headline for industry insiders. It is a pivotal test of our collective ability to move science from the lab to the bedside, quickly, safely, and equitably. The outcome will shape the future not only of American healthcare, but of global innovation and public trust. Will setbacks lead to patient harm, or will they spark bold, necessary reforms? That answer depends on how swiftly and effectively leaders act to rebuild morale, modernize oversight, and champion the values that have made the FDA a gold standard for the world. Here's a secret many do not realize. Some of the most life-changing therapies of the last decade nearly did not make it through the regulatory maze. The fight for faster, safer, and more reliable approvals is ongoing, and the stakes have never been higher. Thank you for watching and joining us at the crossroads of global economics, technology, and the future of healthcare innovation. If you found value in this breakdown, please hit subscribe to stay informed about the forces shaping tomorrow's medicine. And let us know in the comments, what do you believe is the best solution to the FDA's crisis? Your perspective could help shape the path forward, not just for regulators,